Nobody expected one offer from overseas to shake the entire WNBA, but that's exactly what happened the moment Caitlin Clark's name hit the headlines. The contract wasn't just big, it was the kind of life-changing number that made veteran players stop in their tracks. Suddenly, the league's long-standing frustrations came rushing to the surface. Players who had spent years grinding through low pay and limited exposure were forced to watch a rookie receive something they'd never even been considered for. And the reaction wasn't quiet. Behind the scenes, the resentment was loud enough to echo across the entire league. Some players whispered that Clark didn't earn it, others said she was being handed opportunities they'd waited their whole careers for. Meanwhile, fans saw a different picture. A global audience drawn to Clark's presence, not just her stat sheet. Her signing overseas wasn't just a move, it was a reminder of the WNBA's long-avoided reality. If the league couldn't match her value, someone else gladly would. What made this moment so explosive wasn't simply the money. It was the truth it exposed. Clark wasn't just a rising star. She was the engine pulling new viewers into the sport. And for the first time, players were forced to confront that the league needed her far more than she needed the league. The offer didn't just sting. It reopened wounds that had been festering in the WNBA for years. Veteran players who'd carried the league through seasons of low ratings felt something shift the moment Clark stepped in. She wasn't just popular, she became the face of the sport overnight. And that sudden spotlight triggered a wave of quiet bitterness. Some players tried to hide it behind polite interviews, but their comments told the real story. Aya Wilson, one of the league's biggest stars and a multi-time MVP, hinted that fame shouldn't outweigh accomplishments. It wasn't a direct attack, but it didn't need to be. The message underneath was clear. How could a rookie be getting global attention when the league's most decorated players had never been offered anything close? Others felt they were watching their own chances pass them by. They'd put in the years, survived the travel schedules, dealt with minimal paychecks, and pushed the league forward long before Clark arrived. Yet, companies, fans, and networks seemed more interested in one new name than an entire generation of veterans who helped build the foundation she walked on. The resentment was quiet, at least in public, but it was real. And once the overseas contract surfaced, that tension became impossible to ignore. It wasn't just jealousy. It was the sinking realization that Clark's presence had changed the hierarchy of the league forever. As the divide deepened inside locker rooms and behind microphones, one thing became obvious. The pressure around Caitlin Clark wasn't coming only from rivals. It was coming from the inside too. By the way, if you're enjoying this breakdown so far, feel free to subscribe. It helps more than you'd think, and it keeps you from missing the next deep dive. What truly shocked fans wasn't the rivalry or the jealousy, it was what happened inside Caitlin's own locker room. The moment that video surfaced of Nalissa Smith smiling and laughing about the eye poke incident, everything changed. People expected tension from opponents, sure. But seeing a teammate reacting that way after Clark took a finger to the eye? That hit differently. In the clip, DJ Carrington jokes about the incident while Smith stands there grinning, as if Caitlin's injury was just another punchline. Fans didn't see concern. They didn't see unity. They saw a rookie who should have been protected, standing alone while her own team treated the situation like entertainment. The reaction online was immediate. Comments exploded accusing the Fever of failing their biggest star, of letting petty tension overshadow professionalism. And the more people looked, the more they realized this wasn't the first time Clark was left hanging. Small moments during games, awkward press interactions, and the lack of public support started forming a pattern. Instead of embracing the player bringing unprecedented attention to the franchise, the team seemed to distance themselves from her whenever the spotlight burned too hot. For Clark, it had to raise questions no rookie ever expects to ask. If your teammates won't defend you, who will? And maybe even more unsettling, why didn't they want to? If the tension with her teammates was unsettling, the situation with DJ Carrington took things to a whole different level. Their rivalry didn't begin in the WNBA. It had been simmering long before they ever shared a professional court. But the moment Carrington delivered that infamous eye poke and then appeared to mock Clark afterward, any attempt to pretend there wasn't something personal going on completely evaporated. Instead of offering a simple apology or acknowledging the incident with professionalism, Carrington leaned into the moment. Her comments, her tone, even the way she reenacted Clark's reaction, none of it looked accidental. To fans, It felt like watching someone enjoy a moment that should have been taken seriously. And when the cameras caught Carrington laughing about the same incident later, the narrative wrote itself. People began digging up old clips and comparing past interactions between the two. The conclusion was unavoidable. Carrington had been harboring a deep dislike for Clark long before the national spotlight made it obvious. For Carrington, Clark's rapid rise wasn't just intimidating, it felt like a direct challenge. Here was a player who didn't spend years climbing the ladder, yet somehow surpassed established names in popularity, recognition, and influence. What made the feud so explosive was how visible it became. Every time these two shared the court, the tension was thick enough to feel through the screen. The physicality, the stares, the subtle jabs, it all hinted at something more than typical competition. To many, it crossed into open hostility. And as the drama spilled onto social media, fans took sides fast. Every interaction was replayed, analyzed, slowed down, and debated. Carrington's every move was questioned. Clark's every reaction was dissected. The rivalry became one of the league's biggest storylines, something that pulled in viewers even when the games themselves didn't. It didn't take long for the numbers to expose a truth the league had been tiptoeing around. The moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a WNBA court, viewership skyrocketed. Games that once struggled to pull in modest crowds suddenly became must-watch events. Ratings doubled, then tripled, reaching heights the league hadn't seen in over 20 years. And it wasn't a coincidence. Clark was the difference. Analysts spelled it out clearly. People weren't tuning in because of a sudden shift in the league's overall popularity. They were tuning in because of her. Even when the Indiana Fever wasn't at their best, networks kept scheduling their games in prime viewing slots. Broadcasters wanted Clark. Sponsors wanted Clark. Fans, new fans who had never watched the WNBA before, were showing up just for her. Meanwhile, veteran stars watched this happen with a mix of confusion and frustration. How could a single player do what an entire generation had been trying to do for years? It wasn't about skill alone, it was about presence, narrative, and timing. Clark brought something the league had been missing, a story people wanted to follow. And that's what made the situation so fragile. Because as the praise for Clark grew, so did the resentment. Many players insisted the sudden spike in attention was unfair. Others claimed the league was promoting Clark at the expense of the women who had worked tirelessly long before she arrived. Some even said she was being overhyped, as if the numbers didn't speak for themselves. But numbers don't lie. When Clark wasn't in the lineup, viewership slipped. When she was, ratings hit record levels. It became impossible to deny that she had become the league's main draw. And that created a silent pressure the WNBA couldn't publicly acknowledge. They needed her more than she needed them. If you're new here and enjoying these breakdowns, feel free to subscribe. It helps keep deep dives like this coming, and it makes sure you don't miss what's next. For any athlete stepping into the professional spotlight, a strong and unified team is supposed to be a foundation, a place to rely on when the pressure gets heavy. But for Caitlin Clark, that foundation never seemed to fully exist. Instead of stepping in to protect her during tense moments or speaking out when she took unnecessary hits, the Indiana Fever often remained strangely quiet. Fans noticed it first. After rough fouls, no teammate rushed over to check on her. In post-game interviews, the focus shifted to everyone except Clark, even on nights when she carried the offense. And as her clashes with opponents grew more frequent, the silence from the Fever locker room became harder to justify. It wasn't just absence, it felt like avoidance. Then there was the way the team handled public appearances. While Clark's highlights were drawing millions online, the Fever's social media often spotlighted other players, almost as if they were intentionally downplaying her impact. Support that should have been automatic started looking optional. Every ignored moment added to a growing unease. Why wasn't the face of the franchise being treated like one? To an outsider, it looked like Clark was becoming isolated in the very place that was supposed to back her. And for her, that kind of environment can weigh heavily. When you're already dealing with league-wide resentment and national pressure, the last thing you expect is to feel alone on your own team. The lack of support didn't just raise questions about team culture, it raised questions about Clark's future. How long can a player stay where she doesn't feel protected or appreciated? Especially when other leagues offer better pay, better treatment, and a fresh start. The more the pressure mounted in the WNBA, the more Europe began to look less like an alternative, and more like an escape. Overseas leagues didn't just offer higher salaries, they offered something Clark wasn't consistently getting in the WNBA: real appreciation. In Europe, star players aren't treated like a threat to the veterans, they're celebrated as investments. Teams build around them, support them, and make sure they feel valued on and off the court. For Clark, that kind of environment could be life-changing. Imagine walking into a league where the locker room embraces you instead of picking apart your every move, where teammates aren't quietly resentful of your success, and where fans treat you like the superstar you are from day one. Overseas teams have a history of doing exactly that for top American players, giving them not just money, but respect, comfort, and stability. And it's not a secret that European clubs know how to treat their stars. Private housing, personalized training support, high-end facilities, and a fan culture that borders on obsessive, these leagues go all in for the players who bring them attention. For someone like Clark, the contracts would likely come with perks and freedoms she'd never get in a league still trying to find its footing. Beyond everything, Europe offers something priceless: peace. No league-wide jealousy. No endless commentary dissecting her fame. No teammates downplaying her achievements. Just basketball, support, and a fresh atmosphere where she can thrive without the weight of a divided league on her shoulders. And the truth is, she wouldn't just be leaving for better treatment. She'd be stepping into a place where her value is recognized without debate. Europe sees her as a global star. America still argues about whether she deserves the spotlight. The possibility of Caitlin Clark leaving didn't just spark conversations. It sent waves of panic through the entire WNBA. Because losing her isn't the kind of setback the league can quietly recover from. Clark isn't just another talented rookie. She's the one player who managed to bring millions of new eyes to a league that had been fighting for attention for decades. Networks know it. Sponsors know it. Fans definitely know it. Before Clark, the WNBA was slowly building momentum, but nothing compared to the explosion that happened when she arrived. Suddenly, games were selling out. Ratings hit levels no one had predicted. People who had never watched women's basketball were tuning in just to see what she'd do next. She became the kind of star the league had been waiting for, someone who could shift the culture, the audience, and the conversation. But that's exactly what makes her potential departure so dangerous. If Clark walks, the momentum walks with her. Sponsors start looking elsewhere. Networks stop prioritizing the WNBA in primetime slots. Casual viewers drift away because the story they were following suddenly disappears. And the league is left trying to rebuild the excitement it only briefly held onto. Even veteran players understand the risk. They may not love the attention Clark gets, but they know losing her hurts everyone. Because once one star leaves for better treatment and higher pay, others start wondering if they should do the same. It's a domino effect, and the WNBA isn't strong enough to absorb the hit. Clark's decision could shape the league's future for years. Whether she stays, leaves, or demands change, the impact will be massive. And the league knows it. Caitlin Clark's journey into the WNBA was supposed to be a celebration, a turning point for women's basketball, a moment where the league finally got the spark it had been waiting for. Instead, her rookie year exposed cracks that had been hiding beneath the surface for years. Jealous rivals, frustrated veterans, and even silent teammates all played a role in shaping an atmosphere far different from what fans expected. And now, with Europe offering her the respect, stability, and financial security she has more than earned, the WNBA faces a question it never wanted to ask. What happens when the person holding the spotlight decides she's better off somewhere else? It's a decision that could shift the future of the league, not just for Clark, but for every rising star watching her story unfold. Stay in a place that struggles to appreciate its own talent, or step into a world where she's treated like the global force she already is. Whatever she chooses, one thing is clear. This moment is bigger than contracts, bigger than rivalries, and bigger than one season. It's a wake-up call. And if the league doesn't pay attention, the loss won't just be Caitlin Clark. It'll be everything she brought with her. If you've been enjoying these deep dives and want to see more stories just like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and lets me keep bringing you the stories others aren't telling.